Hello everyone, welcome to Recursive Gaming. This is my ultimate free-to-play early game in-depth character guide for Rage of Destiny. First of all, this is a very long video, but there are timestamps below for you to use, and please stay until the end of the video for a summoning session. I'd like to start off by saying that the tier list is wrong. Here are some reasons why. It doesn't account for level. Characters radically change position on the tier list at level power spikes, such as 21, level 41, level 61, level 81, etc. To give two specific examples, Celero doesn't do very well until level 41, when she gains her 300% attack speed bonus, and Bodewick doesn't do very well until level 41 as well, when he gains his self-healing passive. It doesn't account for team composition, which plays a massive part in how effective any character is within the team. For instance, you will need to shift your team around to counter specific enemy team compositions, like control teams, healing teams, immunity teams, and backline assassin teams. Characters have conditional counters against these teams, such as anti-heal, defense down, damage boost, or even damage mitigation, that are only good in specific situations. It doesn't consider character ability animation speed, which is very important because interrupt attacks is deadly. Powerful characters, such as Paulus, who are high on the tier list because their abilities are amazing, can't get their damage off because they constantly get interrupted before they finish casting. Some abilities sound very powerful, but their animation is slow and easily interrupted, whereas some abilities have built-in immunity and always go off. These animation pitfalls are not described in character ability descriptions, and are only discovered through trial and error. Some ability kits work well together, some don't. It doesn't account for a character's ability being an ongoing effect or a channeled cast. Ongoing effects that are not channeled are amazing, because it's free damage while the hero continues to do more damage and generate more ultimate charge with auto attacks while the ongoing effect is doing damage. It doesn't account for which abilities have automatic targeting. Automatic targeting is the best feature for any skill in this game because so many abilities are random targeting and they don't hit the right targets most of the time. Those are the main reasons that I feel the tier list is inaccurate, but now I'd like to give you a full free-to-play hero guide. If you're interested in a full breakdown of each character, use the timestamps below to find the ones you care about or are thinking about putting in your team. Let's go ahead and start with the starting characters that they give to you for free. Grog, the Iron Boar. It's amazing that you get this unit for free, because he's one of the best tanks in the game. Grog has an amazing kit because his abilities all work together to do exactly what you want a tank to do: soak up a lot of damage and disrupt the enemy team. First, he uses his third skill, Brutal Impact, to charge into the enemy line, pushing the front line back into the backline DPS. If you're lucky, he will end up with them in a little group, so his next two abilities hit all of them. Next, he uses his ability Dismember to do a little bit of area damage with a knockback, and this knockback can interrupt enemy abilities when you're lucky. Last, he uses his ultimate, Vicious Counter, which reduces the damage he takes while also making him immune to control effects. During his charge up, while he is immune, he is still targetable for control effects. He will just ignore them, which is actually such a huge deal, because it means the enemy will waste their control abilities. His fourth skill is just an HP increase. Grog's biggest weakness is his lack of self-healing and damage mitigation or armor increase in his kit. When he's not using his ultimate, he takes full damage, and against high burst damage teams, he can get killed very quickly. Despite this glaring weakness, he is an amazing unit even at endgame if you have proper healing support, because his kit improves at endgame to include a stun on Brutal Impact and a massive area taunt on his ultimate. The small 10% heal that he gets on Dismember almost isn't worth mentioning, but still, it's nice. Overall, he is a tank you need to have on your team. Bodewick, the Defending General. Bodewick is a mid-game and late-game warrior. I actually do not think he's a good tank, because he lacks an immunity skill. He can be locked down with control abilities, and then killed very quickly. Still, with proper support, he can be a monster. At level 41, he unlocks his third skill, Holy Protection, which is a 10% heal every 3 seconds. This sounds great, and it is good, but once you approach difficult content above level 61, this self-healing is not good enough due to the high damage the enemy teams start doing. The 10% heal just can't keep up. Then, once you hit level 81, he starts to be useful again. His second ability, Holy Shield Strike, gains a multi-target stun. The best part of Holy Shield Strike is that it's an ongoing ability, continuing to do damage and stun the enemy while Bodewick auto-attacks, doing more damage and generating more rage for his ultimate, which can also be used while Holy Shield Strike is active. If you do the math, at max rank this ability does 770% damage all around Bodewick. That is huge! Now for his ultimate, which has an extremely good damage modifier. At level 61, this ability will do a total of 840% damage to a small area in front of him. Even before high level, this ability has utility by lifting enemies in the air, but then at high level the area damage increases and he even adds a stun. Consider that as a melee unit, Bodewick will be generating a lot of rage, and using this ultimate frequently. Overall, this unit should not be ignored. After level 41, he is useful with his self-healing when you are struggling to get a good healer for your team. And at late game, his heal increases to 30% every 3 seconds, which will make him one of the best self-healing units in the game. At late game, he will also have 2 stuns, both of which affect multiple enemy units. His ability animations are smooth, quick, and uninterruptible by enemy attacks, but he has no immunity, so while his animations are fast enough to avoid interruption by attacks, he can still be interrupted and locked down by control abilities. Bodewick has the potential to be a great unit in your team, but don't expect his 10% heal to keep him alive once you start facing the high damage enemy teams. If you want the best results from Bodewick, he requires a lot of investment. If his level is high enough, his HP will be high enough so that his self-healing is actually noticeable. If his level is too low, you will think he sucks. He doesn't, he just needs to be your highest level unit to see the most from his kit. Jessica, the Torrential Demoness. Jessica is one of the best DPS units in the game. She will be useful and you should probably keep her in your team well into late game. The only reason to switch her out for another unit is to do the very few things that she can't do. Put a damage bonus or a defense reduction debuff on a boss, or rank up to the highest level content. Like all epic units, she has a max rank up limit which restricts her top level at true in-game content. Otherwise, she would likely be on your team for your entire playthrough. She excels at early game content when most of the game is just trying to survive long enough for your characters to use their ultimate abilities. Jessica's ultimate, Sea Snake Dance, is 600% damage to almost the entire enemy team, which is actually pretty awesome area damage. This multiplier is insane when you realize how big the area is and the fact that a lot of single target abilities have the same multiplier. That and her third ability is one of the best utility spells in the game. Characters are usually given high damage multipliers to make up for not having utility, or only being single target. Nope, not here. They just chose to design Jessica with crazy good damage modifiers. When not using her ultimate, Jessica relies on her second ability, Water Bomb. At first glance, and while first seeing this ability, it may seem underwhelming. However, just do the math. As early as level 21, this ability does 480% damage. After level 81, it hits 2 targets for a total of 960% damage. That's insane. Does it have utility? No, but it has something else. It's an ongoing effect. You've all heard me say it before, ongoing effects are some of the best abilities in the game. This is because Jessica can continue auto-attacking while the ability is going. She continues doing damage with her auto-attacks, also generating more rage for her ultimate. It's also uninterruptible, which is a huge deal. Many of your favorite characters will have high damage abilities that will be interrupted and therefore useless when you get unlucky. This doesn't happen with Jessica, because it's an ongoing effect. As if all this wasn't enough, she also has another overpowered ability, an automatically targeted ability. Most of the abilities in this game target either random enemies or random allies, making combat very RNG. However, The best abilities in this game have automatic targeting, such as her third ability, Water Shield. It automatically targets low health allies, and gives an HP shield that's pretty chunky because it scales off her attack. At in-game it also reflects damage and reduces enemy haste. It has a decently low cooldown, making it one of the best utility spells in the game for your early game team. Trust me, rank up Jessica and keep her in your team. She is fantastic. Farin, the Forest Ranger. This raccoon with a boomerang has good damage and a nice team damage bonus. His ultimate, Brave Whirlwind, is a channeled ability that lasts for about 3 seconds and does 600% damage in a small area. The small area is disappointing, but at in-game, the skill bonuses increase it to about 800%. His second skill, Blowgun, deals 480% damage to a single target and puts a 6-second 20% damage bonus on the enemy. At endgame, this skill also has anti-heal. Farin's third skill, Triumphant Skill, is extremely underwhelming, but at endgame it includes a nice 30% personal damage bonus. Overall, he does great single target damage, but he is really only good because of his skill 2, which is a great damage boost for your team, as well as being one of the only sources of anti-heal in the game. You may consider keeping him around just for the anti-heal. Also, he is a good fit for your early game boss team. Roxanne, the Passionate Dancer. This unit can be decent sometimes, but she's never great, and almost always bad. Her kit is extremely random. For instance, her skill 2 has the potential to heal allies, but it randomly targets allies and enemies, which means it almost never heals your units when they need it. Her third skill is a more reliable heal, but you don't get it until level 41. In addition, the range on it is very small, and your units will often miss the heal area entirely. Her ultimate also has a very small range for the heal, and both the heal and the damage are very low. Honestly, the best part of her kit is the ultimate, which has damage and control immunity. Sometimes she'll teleport into the enemy front line, and she can potentially soak a lot of enemy damage with her immunity. However, if you already have a good front line, when she teleports in with her ultimate, your other tanks will already have enemy aggro, and her immunity will be wasted. Her second and third skill can sometimes help with healing, but honestly her kit needs a serious rework. Replace this girl as fast as you can. Celero, the Spear of the Borderland. Celero is a very powerful character that shines in certain situations. Don't expect her to carry you against every enemy team combination in the game, but she is certainly a good pick. Her ultimate, Ancestral Soul, is a fantastic and consistent self-heal that is almost always up because it is an ongoing effect, meaning she can auto-attack very quickly and generate a lot of consistent rage, therefore using her ultimate fairly often. However, just do the math. It's only 5% every second, which equates to 15% every 3 seconds. Only 5% more healing than Bodewick has. Then, when Bodewick gets to in-game, his healing increases to 10% HP per second, which is literally twice as good as Celero's healing, and it's not even his ultimate, it's just his passive. So, despite her ultimate not staying relevant at in-game, her kit actually revolves around her other 2 skills, so that's okay. Her skill number 2, Brave Combat, gives her a nice 100% damage bonus at level 21, and it improves to a 150% damage bonus at in-game. She also loses her disadvantage of losing her stacks when switching targets. Celero really starts to reveal her power when she hits level 41 and gains her skill number 3, Storm Fury, which gives her a 300% attack speed bonus when fully stacked. At endgame, it also gives her a 50% damage mitigation when fully stacked. Now, keep in mind that she has no immunity in her kit, and she can be locked down by control abilities. This means that her 4-second window for keeping her attack speed and damage mitigation buff up disappears against control teams, which is her greatest weakness. To summarize, she excels in long fights, where she can't be locked down by control abilities, such as boss fights. If you plan to put her in your 5-on-5 team, you will be swapping her out. Just keep that in mind. She's good, but not in every situation. Tsithia, the Guilty Soul. Tsithia is good for 2 things. her control ability and absorbing the defense of an enemy frontline tank by 50%, making the enemy tank much easier to kill, while also buffing her own defense. Her ultimate, Death's Harvest, looks very cool, but sadly it doesn't do very much damage unless it hits an enemy while they are imprisoned by her control ability, which almost never times itself correctly that way. Also, her ultimate repositions her and her enemies, which can actually be very frustrating at times. Her second skill, Bone Prison, is arguably the only reason people bother using her, and that's okay because it is arguably the best control ability in the game, locking down 2 enemies at level 21 and 3 enemies at top level. It imprisons them for 4 seconds, and trust me, it can absolutely make the biggest difference in a fight. I have used Tsithia in almost all of my teams of 5-on-5 content because Bone Prison is just that good. Lastly, her third skill, Soul Absorption, is what allows her to be tanky enough to actually survive, while also making the enemy tank that much easier to kill. It sounds meh at only 50%, but when you think about it, she is evening the stat difference between herself and that tank by 100%. It's actually a great ability and plays a bigger role than you realize. Overall, Tsithia is a staple in most people's teams, and she is likely to stay that way, even if it's only because of Bone Prison. Sarkasson, the Black Flame. Sarkasson is one of the best early game free-to-play units available, and he only gets better as you approach in-game. He has 2 automatic targeting abilities which reduces the randomness of his kit and allows you to position him when you put him in your team, knowing exactly who he will attack and how he will impact the fight. Sarkasson's weakness is that he only buffs his own attack by 20%. Which is not significant, and his damage modifiers are only mediocre. This means that he does respectable but not great damage. However, his strength is in being disruptive and a tempting but elusive target. Sarkasson's second skill, Flank Attack, automatically targets low defense targets such as healers and the squishy DPS, meaning his mediocre damage does just fine because he's not hitting the highly armored targets. At level 21, this skill also gives him a decent health shield based off his attack modifier, which is great because he teleports into the enemy backline and takes all that aggro, so he needs to survive it. His ultimate, Infernal Vengeance, targets the highest attack enemy, which most of the time will be the enemy high damage carry. Both of these abilities are fantastic because his second skill stuns the target, starting at level 81, and his ultimate completely destroys the enemy carry's ability to use their ultimate by disabling their rage generation for 6 seconds. At level 101, his third skill, Heart of Dark Flame, gives him a 50% dodge rating for 20 seconds at the start of the battle. Most fights don't last much longer than 20 seconds anyway, so that's plenty of time to get the most out of the dodge rate. Do not ignore Sarkasson. You will be surprised how often having him lock down the enemy DPS can win your fights. He is a fantastic pick and worth investment. Baoui, the Wood Guard. Baoui is one of those units that you only use when you lack something better, but quickly replace once you find that upgrade. In the very early game, at level 11, his second skill, Natural Evolution, brings him back from almost dead to almost full health again, but then he is stuck in one place and won't move anymore. He has short damage and control immunity window during this healing process, but unfortunately the skill is bugged and has a long cast time that is often interrupted. You will probably have many situations where this skill never even heals him like it's supposed to. That being said, when it does work, he is one of the better self-healing heroes in the early game, with a 4% HP per second heal after he triggers his Death Defiance, which is 12% HP every 3 seconds, to compare to Bodewick's 10% every 3 seconds. Basically, even at only level 21, this tree has more self-healing than Bodewick, not to mention the Death Defiance. Sadly, that's the only reason I recommend using this tree in your early game team. If you're like me and you don't get lucky with a healer summon until later in the game, so you need self-healing units in the early game, Baoui is a decent pick. Bowie's ultimate, Overgrow, is a terrible damage modifier. It's not good at all. His third skill, Binding Techniques, sounds great, but when he's on your team, the skill won't activate when you want it to. When he's on the enemy team, it works great for them though. Basically, his third skill seems to have strict close range melee requirements, and so it doesn't work in every situation. I only recommend Baoui in the early game when you are lacking a healer. Don't ignore these two normal heroes in the early game, Wharton and Rokaka. In the early game, normal heroes can fill certain roles until you get beyond level 41. At level 41, normal heroes will start to feel severely underpowered because of their lower stats, and you will have to replace them. But until then, they do a good job, especially Wharton. And sadly, the fact that he is a normal hero and still does a better job than the dancer healer Roxanne says a lot about how bad Roxanne's ability kit is. Wharton's ultimate is a randomly targeted ally's heal. Yes, but the total healing he puts out is 2,280%. Even if he misses with some of those heals, I guarantee most of them are going to heal the units that need it. And that amount of healing makes Wharton an amazing pick for your team until you get past level 41. As if that amazing ultimate wasn't enough, Wharton has something even better. You know how much I love these. An automatically targeted heal on low health allies. Honestly, I wish you could rank up normal heroes. Wharton would be worth using well into mid-game, because he's the only decent healer you can get if you aren't lucky with summons. At day 7, you get a free Eloisa, one of the best healers in the game. But until day 7 and you're free Eloisa, you are absolutely hosed for a decent healer, unless you use Wharton. Wharton is literally the only good choice for healer until you either get lucky with summons or get Eloisa. It's a pity that his stats really start to feel terrible once you approach the end of early game. Then, we've got Rokaka. Rokaka is actually incredibly good. If he were a higher ranked character and could be ranked up, I would absolutely recommend it. As it is, he's likely to do the most damage of anyone on your team in a boss fight until beyond level 41. His second ability has a very short cooldown, activating automatically after every third auto attack, and it buffs all magic damage against an enemy by 30%. This is a great team damage bonus. His ultimate does 840% damage if he hits multiple enemies, or 1,120% damage against a single target. That's very, very good. And now, for the final heroes that a free-to-play player needs to know about, and the reasons why they are not good, at least right now. Thankfully, the devs have shown that they are interested in making changes to character ability kits and balances. Things might improve for the following weak characters in the future. Aharb. He soaks up wasted heals meant for others, he loses aggro on ult, and he doesn't have enough damage to take advantage of his leech effect. If his leech affected his auto attacks and his autos did more damage than normal, the leech would be worth it. If he didn't attract heals, his healing restriction would only affect him, but for now, it seriously impacts your entire team because of the wasted heals that target him. If he retained aggro while underground, he would be a good tank that soaked enemy damage during his immunity phase, but he loses aggro. Overall, it's a great sounding kit and a fantastic design that just doesn't work well in practice. Sappho. The defense and attack increase on her him passive are not enough to make a massive difference because they don't stack. If their duration was longer and if they stacked, it might be different. Haste increase and decrease on ult are only 30%. It's not a game changer. Her Requiem only puts one enemy to sleep until late game. At late game, however, her Requiem can cheese win some fights by sleeping the back line for 6 seconds at the start of a fight, letting you get your combo off, but this makes her a niche character that you might use sometimes. Overall, just not worth investment. Razoma. Electric Charge is her most obvious weakness. It only kicks in when she's about to die anyways. Jumping Shock sounds good with a massive 60% speed and defense decrease, but the duration's only 4 seconds long, and the chance is only 50%. And if there aren't multiple enemies, the skill doesn't even bounce, meaning it only does 120% damage. The best part of Razoma's kit is her ultimate, which at level 61 interrupts the target. However, this rarely works exactly when you need it to because the best characters, that everyone will be using, have skill animations that are not interruptible. Aravo. The best part of Aravo's kit is his Dark Scale Protection passive. but it disappears before it has a chance to be the most useful, because most of the damage from the enemy team happens after ultimates have charged, and by that time his defense buff will have dropped off. His other skills have potential, but honestly, without the proper team support and without the proper team building around him to support him, he's just a weak character. And even then, he'll be subpar compared to somebody else. Thordin. Thordin is a niche character that does tremendous single target damage against a squishy healer or backline DPS. However, his kit takes too long to be useful in normal group 5-on-5 content because he relies on his ult being buffed by his modifiers from his other skills. His damage is mediocre unless he has time to set it up. That being said, his ult is an automatic targeting ability against the lowest max HP target, which is usually the squishy healer or DPS in the backline, which means he can sometimes one-shot key enemy targets. So this does have potential. However, this rarely happens, because his molt only has a multiplier of 620%. His second skill is amazing, however, lasting a full 8 seconds and increasing the damage taken by the enemy by 15%, which is so much better than many of the buffs in the game that only decrease enemy defense or increase character attack. An overall damage bonus multiplier is so much more potent, and with a long duration like that, it can be kept up on the enemy pretty consistently if his haste is buffed. His third skill gives a nice overall damage bonus as well, which means under the right conditions, Thordin can get some respectable damage in a boss fight. I would consider Thordin a decent addition to an early game boss DPS team, considering it's mainly easier to get duplicates for him and rank him up. That's it. Stay tuned for a summoning session at the end of the video. Alright, here we are. First, let me say that this is my free-to-play account, and I do have 4 summons, I believe, lined up. So 40 summons if you count times 10. This game is extremely free-to-play friendly, especially when you're just starting out and you're leveling your team. As you progress through the chapters, you get a free 10 pull every single time. Part of that is also the code, the ROD 777, and I just saved these gems. You get lots of gem rewards from daily activities. I have not added it up yet because it kind of varies from day to day. A little bit of it is kind of random, but overall they're just very generous with the gem rewards. So saved this up for the summoning session. Let's go ahead and get it done. Alright, good. Awesome. Ah, only one, but still, I'll take it. Posada! Awesome. Excellent. I really like this guy. So his ultimate stuns enemies for 3 seconds. He just does damage with this one. When you level it up at higher level, I believe, 81. At level 81, this will be a health restore, which is nice. Here, he summons a prison made of tridents. He traps enemies inside for, that doesn't say how long it lasts here, but I think it lasts about 6 to 8 seconds. I think 8 seconds maybe. It increases the damage they take by 15%. It goes up to 20% pretty quick. And then reduces their attack by 25%. Goes up to 40% here. And then also Nature Faction heroes do an additional 50% extra damage. So he's a tank that also has damage mitigation and damage increase buffs for the team. The closer the enemy is to you, the less damage they deal, up to 40% less. Now, I'm not sure the range on this. It doesn't state it, and it's difficult to test, but this could be 20% for ranged heroes, and then 40% for melee heroes. But regardless, it goes up to 60%. So he's got a lot of damage mitigation. He's got a stun. He's got some buffs for the team. Overall, just a really, really strong tank. I like the way his kit is. I like his ability animations as well when he fights. So, yeah, very quick, very smooth. Just a great character. Alright, so we got him. I also care about the blues that we get because you use them for rank up material, which is very important and difficult to get. So rank up material is pretty good. When you get blue units that you're not really going to use, or you're really only caring about ranking up your mythic heroes, you want to pay attention to the factions that you get, because you can only apply factions as rank up material for the same faction. See here, I only got one nature hero, so I can only apply one of these blues to ranking this guy up. So anyways, here we go. Okay, let's see how many blues I got at least. Oh, that's a good amount of blues. I'll take the rank up material for sure. Also, you need dupes for rank up material. Unfortunately, I'm not caring about any of these. I'm never going to use any of these characters in game, so they're just free rank up material. None of them are really good dupes. Alright, here we go for the next one. Yes! Come on, come on. Who did I get? Oh, guys. Bad luck. I mean, I like the Posada, I like the tank that I got in the first pull, but after that, the last two pulls have not been good. Don't care about any of these blues either. None of these blues are characters that I'm going to rank up or anything, so don't really care about those. I mean, I will use her, but I don't really like her kit that much. She has a useful defense decrease on a frontline hero. 50% of their defense, so it makes it easier to take them down. It makes her tanky at the same time, which is nice. Here, this is honestly what she's most important. This is the most important part of her kit, and this is what everyone uses her for, is the Bone Prison. 3 enemies. So, I am going to use her and rank her up, so that's a nice dupe to have, I guess. But I wish that Spot had been a different character. Like an actual... Oh, no! Oh man, bad luck. Well, it happens. It happens. The rates are pretty generous in this game, but still. This is a dupe that I actually am really excited about. I want to rank him up for sure. So I'm excited to get dupes for Sarkasson. Alright guys, you saw it here. I got some freebies. Let's see who I get here. Alright, so I want to analyze who I need for my free-to-play team. This is my free-to-play team. You guys saw me pull Gar and... Oh, what's her name again? Sierra. Alright, so you guys saw me pull those two in a different summoning video. But, honestly, I'm missing a whole lot of units. I have a lot more units on my main account, because I've put a little bit of money into the game on that account, so I had a lot more resources to pull with. This guy needs to be ranked up and needs to be high level before he starts to shine. He's got a great sounding kit and he's a great unit, but he needs those levels and he needs just a lot of resources before he starts being worth it. Posada, very excited about. So I really am just more concerned about dupes than anything else, because dupes are what you want. If you can't rank up the character, they're not going to be useful at in-game. So I want dupes. So I want Sierra dupes. That's about all I got. I want Paulus. I want Posada. Hard to say who I want to go for here, but honestly, I think I'm more likely to get useful dupes if I go for this faction here. I think I've got more going for that faction. Alright, so we're going to go with, I believe... Here we go. Yeah, okay, so I can get Sierra dupe, which would be excellent. I can get him. He's a great tank. Actually, I need some support units. Like, I actually need some support units pretty bad on this free-to-play account. Like, Kali is great for supporting your DPS. This girl is great for boss fights. Let's just do this. Let's do Nature's Alliance. I can try and go to Posada dupe. I need a ranged carry. I need some ranged damage, and I want this tank. I want that tank more than I want... Ooh. Oh, I've already got a really good healer. I don't really need an Eloisa, so I'm going to go for him. He's a great tank. Okay, let's see who we get. Nature's Alliance. Okay, okay. I'll take it. She's really useful for... right here. Turns every enemy on the field that's not immune, if they're not in their immunity ability, right? Turns every enemy on the field into pixies for 5 seconds at level 81. And when they wake up, they take 25% of all damage taken while they were in slumber as additional damage. And increases damage they take when they wake up by 30%. That's huge. So this, I've had her on a different account, and Jade Dreams is an absolutely broken ability. Think of how many times you've lost a battle because Tsithia got off her bone prison, right, on a key target on your team, and you lost just because of that one ability. This times 1,000. This is such a good ability. I cannot overemphasize how good Jade Dreams is. It's just fantastic. This is okay. It gets better. It gives them a shield, all kinds of stuff. Like, it gets much better. Here, it's kind of meh, but down here, it gets really good. Magic Dust. This is actually really good. This sounds great, but it's not. This down here is when it gets good. It's not that, it'll be more annoying than anything. When you see it in action, you just be like, that's it, really? It sounds so much better. It's not. Here, I think, is where it gets really good. Speed up nearby allies by 20% every single time you teleport. That's huge. So she's actually a really solid support character to have. Alright, well that's it, everyone. Thank you for checking this out. I'll see you in the next one.